this local NGO, it did not start this year or last year. It's a vision, and we've had this since 1997. We have had this vision, and it has gone through changes, transformations, also according to the history. And in previous other interviews, I've mentioned about the movement, the SPLM, SPLA, or SPLA, SPLM. Most people understand the SPLA as the military wing of the movement, and the SPLM as the political wing of the movement. But many people do not talk about the civil authorities of New Sudan, which was the civil administration in the liberated territories. NPA was there, World Food Program was part of it, and there were other, my mom used to run an organization called Waterings for Widows, Orphans, and Disabled, and there was the South Sudanese Women's Association called SWAN. There were many, like the New Sudan Youth Association called NESIA, which was led by Comrade Bramatali in Ye. So there was a civil society of the movement, which was called the Civil Authorities of New Sudan. And when we were in the university as students, we became politically aware, and started to engage in wanting as youth to be part of a youth league, because we had Jeshamar, which was in the Red Army.
Jeshamar.
Yeah, we had that, and then after the fall of Mengistu, and there was no serious transformation and evolution of that institution. And we said, how can, as young people in the university, I met in Kenya, I met Pan-Africanist young people. We used to interact with them, and they encouraged me to set up a meeting with the late Dr. John. As being his son, I had access to him, and I set up a meeting, and as young people, we came up with our Pan-African idea of what African young people should do. And the struggle of South Sudan being at the stage that it was at the time, it had captured the imagination of African people. As a South Sudanese, you could be seen in any African country and you would be called John Garang. You see. So the Pan-African world was paying attention to what Junubin were doing in their struggle. So we went to see late Dr. John, and we gave him almost 20-page document of our ideas, our fiery ideas as young people. He took the document and stayed with it for about 1 year, and after 1 year he condensed it to a 4-page document. That 4-page document that late John Garang gave us, when we were meeting with him that day, he told us that tomatoes and onions is something that you can never go wrong. There's always market for it. It's something which you can found, you can use as a foundation to build yourself. And he sent us to go to the market and look for the prices of tomatoes and onions in the market. He was really putting an idea into our head, And so when we could have been the onion revolution. We chose tomato because of this history. So that 4-page document is what we have been trying to implement now. It's called Africano Monday. He was in that meeting. He was part of the foundation of this thing. Comrade Bramatali, who we met in Ye during Nesia time, he was part of this. There's somebody who, a tycoon, one of the tycoons now in South Sudan called Cholako. He was with us during when this, he wasn't in the meeting, but after the meeting finished, late John Garang gave us two Nissan double cabin pickups for us to go to the liberated areas and interact with the youth of New Sudan. So we took our organization, a reading club we created in the university, which was inspired by those of Museveni and John Garang at the University of Dar es Salaam. We had a study group called University Students African Revolutionary Front, and they used to interact and meet and read African books and things like that. So we were inspired by this, and we set up something called the Revolutionary Movement for a New Africa as university students, as a club in the university. So this club now went to the liberated territories and interacted with youth of South Sudan. And of course, society pressures, there are certain expectations from young people. You have to finish school, you have to get married, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this. So as young people, we were always forced to go back to school. We wanted to be in the struggle. We wanted to join the SPLM, the SPLA struggle, but the elders would say, no, you people, you have to study, you have to get education. When we liberate this country, you people are the ones who are going to come and build this country. So we were always, we would reluctantly go back to school.
To school.
Yeah. And so I finally decided one day, my dad, no longer, I will fully focus on this struggle.
No longer the school.
Graduation. Because most people are focusing on graduation than on education.
Yeah.
But I feel like I actually got my value for money for education because I went and spent my time in libraries. I spent my time in grassroots bookshops, reading always, and I forgot about what my major professor was saying, And so, as time went by, you as a young person, you gain more and more confidence, And so I was able to have the confidence to say, madrasa it's a difference between ta'aleem and madrasa. That you are getting an education.
And what happened after that? I mean, there was a gap, there was a vacuum, I think, somewhere, because you talked about the document back in 1997, and what happened all this time?
Yeah, this is what I'm trying to explain, because when we would come back from school, we would try to engage in these things. So in 2002, I joined the New Sudan Brigade in Eastern Sudan. And we continue to try to push these projects, but after 1 year, I was forced to go back to school. When I went back to the United States, we continued the idea with some other youth I found in the United States. One of them came back to me here, and we founded the organization in Juba when we returned from the US. He was a Sierra Leonean called Jeffrey Commander. And so when we went to the US, an expansion of consciousness occurred, reading, because there was many books, Pan-Africanism. So our identity, our idea of who we are and ourselves changed and grew, And so we became aware of names like that. Sudan was once upon a time a name for the entire Africa. Ethiopia was once upon a time a name for the entire Africa. So we looked for names. Then we found Sudan is Arabic, Ethiopia is Greek, you see. And so we then found a name called Al-Kebulan, which is one of the most ancient names that Africa was known as, and we chose that to name our organization. Jeffrey Commander came with me from the US, and our current CEO is called Enga York. He was here in 2007. We established Al-Kebulan Renaissance Trust.
What is it, Al-Kebulan?
It's the same thing as National Conversation, but I'm just taking you through the evolution of the idea. From when it was a club at the university, then John Garang gave us to go to the liberated territories, our consciousness expands. So as our consciousness has been expanding, the idea has been transforming, going through transformations, and also our history. We were a rebel movement before with the civil authorities of New Sudan, and we were under such a registration, working in the liberated territories. Then the CPA came, and a different political reality was born, and we had now a Ministry of Legal Affairs, and South Sudan Relief and Rehabilitation Commission. And so now we had to change registration as the historical realities change.
With the RRC, right?
We have to change our registration. So in the process of changing our registration, we also find that we have gained more experience. And so when we are changing our registration, we change and we add the experience we have gained, and so the organization transforms. So Al-Kebulan Renaissance Trust, Al-Kebulan Investments and Promotion, and Al-Kebulan Think Tank were three components that we created. That Al-Kebulan Renaissance Trust was supposed to work in the villages for farming, which is now what we are doing with the youth agricultural farmers under that. The Al-Kebulan Think Tank was supposed to develop scientific projects to be implemented by the trust. And then the Al-Kebulan Investments and Promotions was like a non-profit company to bring investors to South Sudan, and then we make money from that to fund the organization. We tried to work, but the political climate at the time was not very favorable to socio-economic development, the oil curse, and such things, arrivalism, people feeling like that they have arrived. So, but our ideas were not falling on any fertile kind of ground. People were Some people were euphoric because of getting our freedom. Some people were in depression because of death of John Garang. So like the situation was very confused at the time. So we did what we could with the resources that we had. We went to Kaya, we went to Tankeka, we did some projects with the youth we could find there, and we went through another transformation around independence, because the laws changed again. Now we were not longer Ministry of Legal Affairs, we're now Ministry of Justice. And so we go through change again. When we went through that change again, we changed the name of our organization. Only the name, not the content. Because we found that the name Al-Kebulan at the time, today if you say Al-Kebulan, there are many young people who will be like, oh yeah, I know what that is. Yeah. But when we came and established our organization coming back from the US around 2007, nobody knew what Al-Kebulan was. And so even before, like we would get stuck explaining to people what is the Al-Kebulan Nation before we can even get now into the project.
Into the project itself, right.
So we found that the name was an obstacle. Yeah. So we decided to change it once the independence came, and we changed it to New Society. Many young people who might be listening now are now more aware of this part of the history of this organization.
We have people watching you as well also on YouTube.
So the New Society, many people here in Juba will be familiar with it because they were part of it. And in 2013, when the war broke out, we were in Kaya and we were doing the tomato revolution in Kaya, and so when war broke out, we had to make decisions. Like the country has precipitated into war. Yeah. Where can we participate? And in the IG, there was no space for us. The only space that was available now was what became known as the SPLM-IO. And so, as New Society and a local civil society organization, we decided to join the peace process. Because many people say we joined the war, but we did not join the war. We did not have forces, we did not have troops.
You joined the negotiations.
We joined the negotiations in Addis to find peace. Yeah. And so as a civil society organization, the word civil already,
there's no military wing or there's no violence involved.
The word civil means that there's no violence involved, like you say. But our country is in civil war. So how can we be civil society during a time of war? So we decided that we will join the peace process in Addis Ababa to contribute our faculties. So when I told you before that the IO was a coalition of different groups that had been pushed out of Juba, the New Society, I did not join IO as Mabiorogara. But of course the name Mabiorogara as a social capital ended up being used by the IO, of course. But I joined the IO as New Society. Some of my colleagues are inside here. They were New Society, and we joined the IO together. Many of them are in Juba, and some of them became redundant after the IO decided not to go for reforms again. We decided as New Society to come out of IO, So coming out of IO, a name change again. You see, name changes.
Now to?
National Conversation South Sudan. And this came from the idea that the New Society which we envision because of the conditions our people have been through that we talked about, that New Society that we envision can only emerge out of a national conversation. Words create consciousness. The words that we speak create the reality that we have. And so the national conversation should be understood as an organization, yes, but it should also be understood as a phenomenon which happens. Like what we are doing right now is the national conversation. If we go outside right now and sit under a tree, you will hear them talking about national issues. If you go to KCB or to Equity Bank, and during the break time, when those executives or those people who work there, when they go for their break or their lunch, they might discuss some national issues. And different topics are in the national conversation at different times. Once upon a time, there was a man who hacked children to death here in Juba. People were outraged. There was a national outrage. People talked about it. Recently, there's been another child who has been raped and mutilated in Awil. People are outraged. That became the main topic in the national conversation. Every day there's a topic in the national conversation, you see. And so who is in charge or who directs the vocabulary which is used in the conversation, you know, because the vocabulary which we use today are, you know, Nuer are not people, you know, that is the vocabulary in our national conversation, and it will create the reality that we have today. But if we inject more positive vocabulary into the national conversation, then maybe we will have a different reality.
We'll change the narrative.
It will change, yeah.
So can we talk about some of your agricultural activity? I understand you're wearing a T-shirt there written Youth Agricultural Farm. Let's talk about some of your agricultural
seeds,
activities.
Not bullets.
Seeds, not bullets. Very interesting.
This is an idea. It's something that when I was in some kind of hardships, you know, financial difficulties, I decided to, like, I've been in Kenya, as everybody knows. I'm just now returning to South Sudan. I've been in exile for some time. The recent handshake that I had with President Salva Kiir has facilitated my coming back, and the coming back of
the one in November last year.
Yeah, and the coming back of national conversation, South Sudan, to do our activities here on the ground. Like, I was in Kenya, no job, you know, and so I decided to start farming, you know, and I didn't know anything about farming. I've not studied farming, but I have a passion for farming because my mom, my father, they've always farmed. My father studied agricultural economics. He was in the US, in Iowa, which is an agricultural area. When he came back in Bor, we had a farm. He used to farm with my mom. So we've been around farming, even though not professionally for me. And so my father had always told me that in times of hardships, if you find yourself in a very difficult situation financially or what, you turn to tomatoes. You know, there's always a market for tomatoes and onions. And if you become an onion farmer or a tomato farmer, you will make it in life. So these words started to come back, and I went into farming. In the process of going into farming, I've gained some experiences, you know, some good experience. Experience teaches wisdom. You know, so now I've become a farmer, you know, and so we are selling our products in the market in Kenya, some farmers markets. We're going to start now selling into some certain supermarkets after gaining the experience, because making money from the produce that you grow is not that's not money, you know, but money is made in value addition, you know, and branding and those kinds of things. So I've begun to learn I learned some of those things. Now our business is now in its third year. We are now in our third year
in Kenya.
Where
exactly in Kenya do you farm?
There's an area near Limuru in Kenya called Tigoni. We have almost 5 acres, 5 fedans there. The first harvest we did there was we planted full masir. We harvested about 150 kilos of full masir, and we have turned it into seeds. And we plan to bring these seeds here to South Sudan and introduce full masir as a main crop with the youth associations that we are associated with here. We also have chili, like I said, it's called Demon F1 chili, African Demon F1 chili. It's one of our main products. And so we take the chili, we process it. So we want to bring these seeds here. Like there's so many challenges. The Youth Agricultural Farm wants to help our local farmer to get out of subsistence farming to become a more modern farmer, where young people in the towns can be able to set up agribusiness and depend on young people in the villages to produce. You know, so this is the vision of the Youth Agricultural Farm. It's also like we want to transfer the knowledge and experience from the business that we did in Kenya to transfer it to South Sudan. But because the capacity of the local farmer in South Sudan is so low, it's difficult to set up an agribusiness value addition chain of production in South Sudan.
And is that the reason why you started your farming in Kenya? People might be wondering why starting in Kenya instead of here in South Sudan.
Yeah, part of it is that is a big part of it, and also because the country was at war and we had been pushed out, and I was part of the rebellion. You know, I was not in good books with the system, and so it becomes very difficult for you to do anything.
And what is this tomato revolution? Can you tell us more? I understand you also you're farming
tomato
tomatoes.
revolution is a concept, and it's just it's a philosophy. We say that the tomato revolution is a movement of youth into wealth. Like right now in Aru Junction, there are many youth who are growing tomatoes, but those tomatoes rot and they go to waste. I've seen them posting it on Facebook lamenting about how the Ugandan farmer can get their tomato to the market before the South Sudanese. And so the tomato as a plant is very symbolic. It's a symbol for the sun, and the sun is like an ancient symbol of God, which has been worshipped by many family, like human communities. The sun gives us life on earth. It's the main component in agriculture. If there's no sun, you can't have agriculture. The tomato also is 80-90% water,
Yes.
Which is also required in agriculture. From the tomato itself, you can do many things in terms of you can industrialize from a simple tomato. But like our people, because of, like I said, the negative experiences, slavery, colonialism, we have a very negative attitude towards women. We have a very negative attitude towards what we see as the kitchen. Nuswan the manas, you see. But industrialization, babda fil marba. You see, when we get our products from the farm, processing they should. When you look at industrialization and you go to buy industrial size of what is in the kitchen, and you process the food and then pack it in ways which add preservatives. So we want to share this knowledge. Just from a simple tomato, we can make tomato paste, we can make ketchup, we can make tomato sauce, we can make tomato powder, we can make barbecue sauce, tomato juice, tomato soup. You see, just from that simple tomato. So it represents industrialization. We cannot all make money from crude oil. Ghana oil has been sold up to 2027. All of us cannot make money from the crude oil. You understand? All of us cannot get a government job. Some of us will have to find other ways of wealth creation. And farming, is the best way to commit poor people to development. And the National Conversation South Sudan Youth Agricultural Farm wants to share our knowledge and experience, seeds, expertise. We have come with 150 kilos of full seeds treated for cultivation. And we have brought an expert to ensure that this food is harvested. So I hope that after 120 days I'll sit down with you again and
hopefully
we will have our full in front of
you'll display here, no problem.
Here.
All right.
We brought our products. Unfortunately, they're not here.
Could you tell me how much quantity you brought with you, the tomato?
We actually, I don't know if I want to disclose too much, but we didn't bring tomato. We brought chili, and we brought another product, which is morabba.
Morabba. Okay.
Morabba, like if you look at Juba here, all these mangoes which are rotting in Juba, there's all morabba out of them. And so we want to teach youth how to make morabba and how to pack it and how to brand it and take it to the market. Now I'll bring my company, Nile Valley Foods. Once we have built the capacity of the local farmer, then we can become a distributor for them. We can become a market for them. We can take their things, we take them and distribute them in Phoenician, we can distribute them in JIT, we can distribute them. You see, but there's a component missing for the youth in the town to be able to take advantage of agribusiness. There's a component missing, which is the building of the youth in the villages. You see, there's a lot that we can do. Dairy industry, but for us to go into dairy, it's very expensive. So we did not start with the, because somebody from my village might say, why are you going and starting with those people who cultivate? You come and work with us, cattle keepers. It's more expensive. It's a more expensive investment. We will get to them, because they like from ghee in terms of this animal fats to butter, cheese. Bagar Day is an industry, but right now the cow, like in Dinka language, we say that the cow should sustain the human being. But right now, it's the human being sustaining the cow. You see, so we need to change the economic realities of our people, make them become more productive. Instead of being a consumer nation, we should be a producing nation.
Right. Thank you very much, Mabior, for speaking to iRadio.
Thank you, Edmund.
Thank you.